Good evening. Welcome to Investigator News, and I'm your host, Ellie, and this is um, the World War III report and news. And hello, William. Boy, I'm
Hi.
sitting low or something in my chair. Uh, oh, I don't know. I'm sitting low.
Don't fall off, Ellie. Don't fall off.
No, I need a booster seat. This weekend, I'm going to kind of rearrange stuff in here so the camera maybe is a different angle. I don't know. I
Oh, well,
have to
you're
fix
like us
something.
short people. We have to jump.
Short. Remember that song, "Short People They Have No Reason." I don't know. I I look a little fuzzy tonight, but who knows? Yep. Karen said I'm blurry. Yeah. Um, I think it was the shows we've been doing, and they are trying to figure out a way to get me to quit. You would not believe that last week we had so many shows taken, even the weather and lifestyle news. It's like, why? They don't do, we don't do nothing wrong with the weather and lifestyle news. So I want to get to Hamas bombed a hospital. And, Hamas says Israel did it. Israel says Hamas did it, and it's back and forth. And there is a video that is out that shows that it came from Hamas area and it fell short and it hit the hospital. Now, I have known with the Syrian and other and Iraq wars where terrorists will bomb and they don't care where they bomb. They just bomb. Wherever they fall, they fall. And they even bombed a hospital in Syria like 3 times and wanted to say, hey, it just happened. It just happened. It just happened. And of course, the blue helmets and white helmets moved in, and uh, you they used the same footage of the kids, the same kids. It was almost it was propaganda back then. Now it has this William. The whole thing with this is when the hospital was bombed, what happened? Well, our embassies got attacked. Uh, who cares about AOC and Tiob and Omar? But they all came out and said, "Look what Israel did." And then Joe Biden, and I even questioned William today that something didn't seem quite sincere with Joe Biden. And that's all I'm going to say on that. William, I just, this terrorist, um, um, they don't have a moral value. They just bomb and bomb and bomb and bomb and bomb. It doesn't matter where they fall, right?
So, militaries and freedom fighters and terrorists, okay, they're relativists in their thinking. They don't have like this special dispensation that says, thou shalt not kill. The Ten Commandments, honor your mother and your father. None of that matters, all right, when it comes to war. It's whatever will meet your objective. Nothing else matters. All right. Now let's look at this situation in Gaza. Now this was the southern hospital. It wasn't the northern hospital. And Israel hasn't attacked the northern hospital. So why would it attack the southern hospital? So there's that. And out of all the attacks on the north, they haven't attacked something like the hospital. They've maintained that infrastructure. So apparently they're putting weapons on target and putting weapons where they shouldn't be on target. You know what I mean? They're missing those areas.
And not only that, but if Israel were to do this, why would they bomb an area where their own people were? Now we have known it has come out over the weekend and the last few days that Hamas is blocking um, and holding basically Palestinians from leaving Gaza. So why wouldn't they do this? Uh, if they're
So let's look at it from the Hamas point of view. We'll just bring in Evil William. So we want to eradicate Israel. Do we have in our grasp the firepower to do it? So the answer to that is probably no, right? So what do we have? We have the world stage. We have the United Nations as a way to export our propaganda. We have individuals in the U.S. Senate that can voice our desires. We've got populations all over the planet in the free countries that can protest for us, and we have our Muslim neighbors, if you will, the old Muslim Brotherhood. So how do we motivate them? Number one, all right. So you've got that. We don't know if they did it intentionally, by the way.
I don't think it was intentional. I think it was maybe, like they said, it fell short and landed.
Well, we know that they use people as their citizens as human shields. And if you're going to stash a large number of your weapons and you don't want them hit, where are you going to put them? Right there near a hospital, right? Or in a hospital. And
well, they did with Syria.
An errant bomb hit that area and all that goes off at one time. Guess what? No more hospital.
Yep. Well, we've seen it during the Iraq War. We've seen it in Afghanistan. We've seen it in Syria. And now we're seeing it in Gaza. And
the destruction.
I liked what Herzog said. There's no mercy. There's no mercy in terrorism. And he had a point.
No, there can't be mercy. Otherwise, you can't win.
That's right.
Now, remember, if we're Hamas, we're genocidal. All right? We aren't like the rest of you. If I'm Hamas, right? And we don't care what we do to you as long as we get what we want.
This guy in Israel that's our resource, William, and I should have mentioned this to you earlier. He was saying that they're going through, and if you're Hamas, they put you in an area. If you're Palestinian pro-Israel, they put you in another area. And then they let you through and they tell you to go to this hospital. And this is in the southern part on the Egyptian border. Now, when I heard about that, I sent him a message back and I said, so they're separating the two. Now, we're not going to send those pro-Hamas to the hospital, only pro-Israel. And I said, and he says, I think you're catching on, is what he sent back. And he said, so what you could see is they were sending all these pro-Israel to the hospital. It makes sense. If you're going to do away with hundreds of pro-Israel Palestinians, this would be the way to do it.
Well, keep in mind, it's organized killing.
Yeah.
It's not disorganized killing. It's organized killing.
No, they've organized this from the beginning. Oh, well, I'm going to say, and when is the beginning? Years and years, because I believe it was 2007 when they started doing the tunnels. They have been working towards this and stockpiling all the humanitarian aid that came in. They stockpiled till they could get enough that they have sent missiles to Israel on and off over the years, I think just to irritate them. Now
So,
they've got enough that they said, let's go to war.
so if I'm Hamas and I'm going to go to war, I want to be able to have force sustainment. That means, beans and butter. So yeah, I'm gonna stockpile it.
Yeah.
That makes absolute sense.
Yeah, and it does because when we look at Syria on how ISIS and or ISIL K or whatever it was it went at Syria, they made a lot of mistakes, and now we still have uh, a war that continues today from Desert Storm. And so what I'm looking at now is now we have Syria, we got Hezbollah, we got Lebanon, and Iran. And Iran has been sending. They have found missiles from Hamas that have Iranian markings. We have missiles from Hezbollah going into um, Israel that have Iran markings. But, and I mentioned to you earlier, but when you start blaming Iran and everything that they're doing, they're saying, whoa, wait a minute, well, don't bomb us. Don't bomb us. They don't want to
So,
be bombed, but they're willing to give missiles to third world nations or terrorists so they can do the dirty work. And then when it comes to supporting them, they will. You got that chatter, uh, and if we don't do it, we're going to come get you. We're going to come get you. Then when we go to hit Iran and or do any sanctions, they're like, we didn't do nothing. That's what
so
gets me.
Iran always exploits any failed state that they can pour weapons into that will cause an impact on the great Satan. That's us, right? Um, and the little Satan, which is Israel. And we have to expect it, whether it's in Yemen, whether it's doesn't matter where it is. They're going to do it if there's a failed state because they can motivate people who don't have a source of income, who have a deep-seated animosity. They're not hard to animate. And it's good statecraft if you want to take over, the world. Remember, Iran's thing isn't just Israel. Iran's thing isn't just Hamas. Iran's thing is global. That's what they care about. They've got Iranian troops in Venezuela. They're global.
And
So if they can fund uh, some failed state where there's groups that have animosity and are willing to fight, freedom fighters, if you will, if you're on their side, and they bring down the amount of available weapons from the big powerful nations, right? So, like Ukraine is sucking down a lot of our stocks now. They would like Hamas to suck down our stocks with conflict. Well, that's all good business if you're in the business of taking over the world.
yeah, and the thing is we had Anthony Blinken over there, and I thought, why? And Joe Biden today going over, but he can't go to the border, but he can go into a war torn area the same way as Blinken. He can't. He'll go into a shelter, but he's not going to go take a look at our borders. Well, um, he finds himself. Uh, he's jetting around the Arab countries. Um,
So,
but he's I don't know if they're classifying him as a naughty boy because my family was Jewish. Now all of a sudden world leaders are looking at him going, no, no, that's not the program. And yeah, I could be wrong. And the war in Gaza is poised to spread now on new open fronts. And what I mean by that is we've seen a bombing in a lot of embassies, Iran, Beirut, but these don't matter. These are um, terrorist positions that are sending Palestinians or Muslims out to burn the embassies. Now, yeah, we found out that he was warned in recent days that Azerbaijan could soon invade Armenia. And some analysis have pointed out that the United States military preoccupation, along with the absence of um, they say global issues, presents China with a window of opportunity um, to attack Taiwan. And that's what I said earlier with you on the phone is when everything got busy in Israel, we had to look at what's going on over in Taiwan. But now Blinken is so concerned and heartbroken and my family were Jews and we're all so caught up in what's going on in Israel that we've taken away from um, Putin and um, Ukraine with Zelensky, but we've also ignored the fact that Putin is meeting with Jinping and Blinken is the noise. Could I be wrong, William? I meant to bring this up to you earlier. It
So
almost seems
we've
like
got a
Blinken
number
is
of
the
things.
noise. So is Biden.
We've got a we've got a number of things going on here on our home front. We have a lot of people in the administration in places of power that their families come from other places. We all in the United States come from other places. And Armenians, there's a lot of Armenians. Hillary Clinton's one of her main lawyers was Armenian. And the Armenian lady, her husband was over the Department of Justice. Okay, so we have powerful groups within our government that seek at times to use American power to protect family members, homelands. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't expect them not to. So that's going on. Then we have this Belt and Road Initiative for what they call Western Asia in China. So they're having a Belt and Road Conference for Western Asia. We call it the Middle East. So if you take and draw a line between the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea, and then from the Black Sea right down to Egypt, and from the Caspian Sea right down to Pakistan, that's the Middle East, or as the Chinese call it, Western Asia. So they want to push their Belt and Road Initiative, and a lot of people are on board. There's money there, right? There's places they want to sell oil to the Chinese. There's just a myriad of things going on as politically. Then we had the Blinken thing where he was jumping between Saudi Arabia and Israel because there were talks to normalize relations between those two countries that we've been trying to get going, right, for the last 70 years. And it was nearly a done deal, and then boom, this thing happened, right?
Yes.
So there's that going on. And then we have in our own Congress, we got people who want to sell weapons, want to push war. It's like let's see who I'm McCall, a Republican of Texas, has gotten involved with the U.S. Foreign Affairs Committee so that they would be ready in case of war, that Biden would have full authorization for to go to war if that would happen, right? And so we have people in the United States that are already drawing up the documents so that only congressmen have to sign off it, president sign off it, and bam, we're off to the races. Okay.
And we've already sent 2,000 troops over there, but it's a humanitarian aid. But I think they're sending not only that, but even Military Times said that they're sending Marines over there for standby.
So we've moved 2,000 troops out of Kuwait, all right, and we moved them onto the U.S. United States amphibious aircraft carrier, Bataan, and they're part of what's called a ready group. They're just outside the Persian Gulf right now, just outside the Strait of Hormuz in the Arabian Sea, so they can move up into and stop Iran from doing something if they're sent that way, or they can be sent to the Red Sea, right, and go into southern Israel, or they can come through the canal and come through on the other side by Gaza. So they're sitting out in the Arabian Sea waiting for further orders. Okay, so that's 2,000 fully armed, fully ready. It's a ready group, right? Ready for war, to go onto the beaches and go to war. So, and they've got their own strike aircraft. They have their own hover aircraft. They have their own tanks. They've got everything they need to go to war at any one point. Now, we use these people many times for bringing in humanitarian help because they can defend themselves if necessary. Because a lot of times when you bring in humanitarian aid, the people are so distraught, so crazed, that you have to control them to give them the food. Otherwise, they try to just take everything just for themselves, and you have to distribute it evenly. And the Marines have the capacity to do that. At the point of a gun, by the way. Here's the food, but don't charge us because we're locked and loaded, right? And that's how you have to deal with people that are afraid like that. So that's going on. And we also have what's going on with Netanyahu in his country, right? Because they're upset that he has too many powers. There's people inside Israel.
But what I've seen more of is Herzog, the president. He has really stepped forward. I haven't seen much of him in the past, but now I'm starting to see Herzog with Netanyahu pushing for an agenda for Hamas and even Hezbollah, where we haven't seen this before with Herzog.
Well,
a lot of people didn't even know he was a president.
Okay, we were in the war on terror until Ukraine happened, right? Because that's an open front battlefield. But before that, we were in the war on terror. We maybe have people within the government are trying to rehabilitate the war on terror, and so that applies more to Iran and Hamas. You've got that going on as well. And neocons are neocons. If they see any problem, for them it's a nail, and U.S. military is a hammer. Now, they've never bled for their country, right? They've never actually bled for the nation. But darn, if there's a nail out there and a hammer, and they're good with it. So we have to pull those people back and dispassionately look at the whole situation.
Yes.
We can't go into it emotionally. It's easy to moderate Arab groups around the world. Okay, anywhere else in the world besides, they're easy to modulate emotionally. All right, so we have to dispassionately remember that fact when we communicate to the world what we want to do. And we have to bring the message to them in a way they can understand emotionally rather than logically. And, this is all a difficult thing to do. This is if you will, the dance before heavy conflict.
Mm-hmm.
We always go through this dance, and we're always trying to find the one way to stop what is happening, number one, and number two, leave us with an outcome we can live with.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't necessarily go for the optimal outcome. We just go for the outcome we can live with, because at least we can get that done, rather more quickly than the perfect outcome. It's like Patton once said, I think it was Patton, he said, a good plan executed violently today beats a perfect plan tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so all of these things are going on simultaneously. And then we have the other issue is how many people under or at the age of 18 to 21 and how many mothers, right, females in our population are ready to vote so that we have a safe and stable nation.
Mm-hmm.
Are they getting the information they need? That's another part of this. It's intellectually, and as far as world planning and markets go, this is the Wild West.
Yeah, and the thing is, William, is
diplomacy.
When we start looking at the United States, we are looking at millions of migrants moving in, and I know you mentioned this before, but one thing I grabbed today was that how savage um, we're starting to see the migrants. We had terrorists coming in. I think you even had a number, but now Biden's deputies are threatening banks with investigations if loans are given to the illegals. So we have them. They have got the power in the United States, and we still don't know why, and what the connection is. And when
I want to say one thing first. We have illegals coming into the United States from what we deem as terrorist nations.
Mm-hmm.
We have groups of more than one from those. So there's more than single individuals from those terrorist nations. So what we have in the United States, all right, let's be honest here. We have terrorist cells we've moved into the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And if enough emotion is created in Palestine, perhaps these will do their thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
A cell is a hate group. And if they find a way to jihad, now jihad might be for them ripping off people at dealerships, or making it so trains run not on time, or there's a million ways to jihad. They slow the Americans down, or they can go, full crazy and do, a Gaza.
Yeah.
But they're here.
Yeah,
and
they're
we
here.
have to respect the fact they're
What
here.
was it?
And
I don't know what you called them. Terror cells. I don't know. I can't remember what you called them, but they're gathering up. They're using our gangs. They're using people to support their cause, and this should be considered dangerous. And we should be warned.
They fund their cause by hook or crook. They don't care how they do it.
Yeah.
Terror cells simply don't.
Terror cells. That's what I was thinking. They're doing because I have been looking at this with ISIS moving in and getting in with the gangs. We're finding MS-13 in the gangs. We're finding cartels in the gangs. We're finding they're saying, come, come on in, and we have hardened terrorists like
So
Iran
what have we
and
been
Hamas and Hezbollah in our country.
So let's look at the atrocities that Hamas committed. Okay, I'm not judging Hamas right here. I'm just talking academically. What were the atrocities that were committed? So we had women attacked, right? Raped. We had old people disrespected, taken hostage, killed. We had the young mutilated, killed, burned. There was almost no atrocity they weren't willing to do, right? Well, what have we been finding down on our southern border recently? We've been finding bodies. We've been finding executions. We've been finding mutilations. Where do you think this comes from?
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's it.
It's here.
That's it. And, we have, and I kind of want to move along. We had a deadly train derailment. And a lot of people, we keep having these train derailments, and me and you discussed this, and it was only coal. It was only coal. But this is an infrastructure failure. And during the Trump administration, he did put the funding into the dams, the trains, the bridges, the dams, all to be fixed. And now we have seen. I mean, Mary is in our chat room, and Mary has sent me so many articles of train derailments or plant explosions. And now we have another one. It was coal, but get this, they should. William, you said the bridges are built to sustain heavy amount of
train bridges, unlike automobile bridges, okay, interstate bridges, have to be overbuilt. They have like 250% carrying load of what they see, because those aren't just bridges that trains cross. Those are bridges that trains stop on. So that's dead tonnage weight. All right, it's not a flexing weight, but a dead tonnage weight. So when a bridge like that collapses, it's because of gross negligence.
Right. That's what I was saying. When you have the funding and you're putting it into green deal and the solars and the wind, when it was all meant for it, we had so many bridges that were faulting, so many dams, so many ports, so many roads. And now what got me was this was a coal train on a bridge that should have sustained it, that collapsed, that threw the train onto a freeway and took out an 18-wheeler. And so what we're seeing is we should be making, I don't know what I called him earlier, William, the head of this needs to be taken out. He's not doing his job. And more, and the more he ignores, the more we're seeing train derailments or plant explosions. And the plant explosions, I can't say belong to the infrastructure, but with the dams and the train derailments and them not fixing the rails like they should have 8, 10, 12, 15 years ago, now we're seeing the issues that our tax money isn't going in the right direction.
So train rails are different than roads also. They're privately owned. They're not owned by the public.
Mm-mm.
All right. So what Congress and legislators do is they demand certain things from the railroads to make those safe, right? They demand it so that they will spend their profits to ensure safe railroads. Well, that's kind of gone by the way because they're more concerned about, the animals next that live on the right-of-ways near the tracks, and they've got a million other programs that are more important, right? Like you say, and I say kind of sarcastically, they're tilting at windmills. Anyhow, so the railroads have bought out each other, okay? They've consolidated. Now there's just like three big main railroads, like the Union Pacific and whatnot. They don't have other people looking over their shoulders because they used to have to share those rails, those right of ways. All right, that all was worked out through the public. So we need to go through trust busting again. That's where trust busting first started with the railroads, and we're just getting back to that again. If you allow too much consolidation, too few people have too few eyes on too much infrastructure, and this is what happens. This is a natural fallout from that. Now we know this. We went through this during the trust busting era. We broke up all the oil companies. We broke up the rail companies and the steel companies. We know this happens. We did that with Bill Gates. We wouldn't let Bill and Apple go together. We wouldn't let certain gaming companies and Microsoft merge because you don't want too few actors in any one realm. So we're just at that point again, and we have, for whatever reason, a Congress that's not really ready. They're not really ready for this. We're in a situation where our legislatures, our congressmen, our governors, they are now in a rolling boil, right? They're not simmering anymore. They're in a rolling boil. And a lot of these people have come in and they don't have the temperament to deal with it because they had the temperament to come in when it was at a simmer. So we're going to see things change over time, but it's going to be a hard growing experience, especially for the young. I think we will get there, but there's going to be a lot of people, killed.
Now, I want to kind of move over to Iraq because U.S. military stops drone attacks on bases in Iraq. Now, this was odd. It was out of the blue because U.S. military targeted 2 attacks involving drones at the air bases where American troops are stationed. Now, this is according to the Pentagon officials. Now, this is out of Stars and Stripes. One of the attacks, the base in western Iraq, led to minor injuries. And they say this is an earlier statement from a U.S. defense official, said early morning attack at Al Assad Air Base involved one-way drone attacks. So these drones were sent, and if they blew up like a kamikaze drone, it would be okay. They never expected them to come back. But this is, they said, come to find out, an Iranian-backed militia in Iraq announced that it did this. They're the ones that sent the drone up there. But they're going to start attacking U.S. military bases. Now, that's what we've seen in Syria, and that's what we're seeing all over the globe with our embassies, is now that this hospital. To me, William, they did this hospital was blown up to refuel the hatred because today is considered the day of anger, according
I
to
I
Iran.
disagree with that because,
Okay.
and here's why. Because anytime there's a conflict, you don't have to target something like that. Wars create things like that. All you got to do is wait.
Yeah. Well, that's
It,
true.
it just
That's true.
happens.
And so, we had this. We had Hezbollah shooting rockets. We had the drones attack Iraq. We've had protesters attacking the embassies around the globe. And they're only pointing out, oh, it was in Lebanon. It was in I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. Egypt. It was in Iran. It was, and of course we had it here. But what I just think
We
it's
have to.
refueling the hatred. I
So
mean, yeah, I understand, William, but I think it just refuels
Congress,
the hatred.
they look at the Arab states, right? And if they become emotional and react, that's what they do, right?
Yeah.
We have let them become that way because we tolerate it. So does that make us weak? Does it make us strong? I'm not sure. But we've tolerated it, so now we can expect it. So Iran was boarding tankers all over in the Persian Gulf, so we sent in the Bataan Ready group, and then suddenly they started to behave themselves again.
Yeah.
We put 2,000 Marines in Kuwait, and all of a sudden Iraq and half of Syria was being pleasant once again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we pull those people out and move them out into the Gulf of Aden and out into the Arabian Sea, and what happens? Boom, in comes drones, fomented by Iran. And let's be honest, Iraq is mostly governed by people who are part Iranian. They have sympathies towards Iran. So that shouldn't be a surprise when we wiped out the Ba'ath Party that had nothing to do with Iran, right? We allowed that to happen. The guy that was killed in Benghazi, the State Department guy, he is the one that came into, I believe, Iraq and demanded that the entire Ba'ath Party be brought out and that they create a new government.
Yeah.
So he died because of his ideas, right? He died doing his ideas out on a forward basis. Now, the military has lily pads around the world, and when we see this emotional outpouring from the Arabs, if you're on a lily pad anywhere in the world, you have to go on alert. You can't, anything could happen. And we have to have those lily pads around the world because you can see how quickly the world can boil over. We could end up with a regional war turn into the whole thing going on near the Dead Sea, and have the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea all of a sudden all in conflict all at one time.
Yeah.
Now we're looking at a world war.
Yeah, and the whole thing is I mentioned earlier that why all this is going on, no one's really looking at Taiwan. And we have Japan working with Okinawa with the Marines. We have the U.S. On islands. We have got. I think you had something on it too.
So, anytime we send in a force, we create what's called, special forces, especially. We send in a small number, right? So that we're not going to be seen, we're not going to be noticed. We go in with just an air traffic controller, a sniper, and a few others, right? A spotter, and somebody a couple guys to maintain security around them. And we do surveillance on our enemies. Well, if those people all of a sudden get discovered, then they need a massive amount of help. So we have what's called a quick reaction force, a ready reaction force. Well, the Marines are creating now a ready reaction force for things like, so they could run immediately into South Korea or immediately into Taiwan. Okay, so instead of being just a military base to service the Navy and the Marine Corps at sea, that's changed. So now they're going to be completely mobile. So in a couple hours' time, they can all be on ships and moving, right? Instead of taking days and weeks, they're going to have everything at their disposal right now for an action right now, and be able to sustain themselves for X amount of time right now. And that doesn't usually happen. That takes a lot of logistics. And that's
well,
what
even
doing.
the B bomber that ended up in South Korea, you could see that things are being moved around, things are being fortified, things are getting ready for, and Taiwan is even saying they're closer, and they feel that China. I know we've been reporting on this for a very long time about China invading Taiwan, but I think everything is starting to build up. While, let's take a look at Israel. Let's you watch what's going on in Israel, the news says. Watch what's going on with Ukraine. Don't look at Taiwan. And I think it's a lot of propaganda to divert our attention so that China doesn't really have to go into war. They could just slip into Taiwan and take it over. And we would be so focused on Israel or Zelensky, we won't pay attention to it, because that's how sneaky China is.
So if you're going to be involved and understand the world, you have to understand it from a global power base, right? From global power. Whoever owns the power in that domain, that's their global power, right? You can't just get focused on one area. We are a global community now. We can move from that whole thing that it's just Middle East or it's just Africa, it's just South America. Everything affects everyone. So we can't forget that. So we got this thing going on right now with Hamas. Who do we got to watch? We got to watch China with Taiwan. We've got to watch the central banks with their digital currency. There's a lot of people we have to keep track of, because when the American public gets distracted, that's when they want to move. They don't want to be seen doing what they do, right? So you can't just look at any one area. Now, we've got neocons that want to go to war with Iran, and there is a really good argument to go to war with Iran. But we haven't done certain things with Iran yet. We haven't gone 100% sanctions on them. We haven't blockaded them, right? So they can't move anything.
Yeah.
But by water. There's a lot of things we have not done yet before you take the big leap to war. And if you're not willing to blockade Iran, you shouldn't be willing to go to war with Iran.
Yeah, that's true. Now,
we haven't blockaded China yet, right?
Yeah.
That's coming down the pike. Well, we send out B-1 bombers. What's the importance of a B-1 bomber? First of all, it carries the payload of a B-52. It's a heavy. Second of all, is it flies very, very low, so 100 feet off the deck. So you're not going to pick them up on radar until they're already there with their weapons. So that's what we're sending, the message we're sending. You can have all the radars out there in the world looking out there, and if we know where the dark areas are, in we come. And they're saying, and we're very close. Don't act up. So that's posturing. That's all going on. That's part of diplomacy. And then we've got, diplomats right now You can argue whether they're strong or weak depending on your perspective, but they're not being as effective as others have been in the past.
Yeah. So,
All those are going on, and we have this one little thing. We have people that are constantly talking to our senators, right?
yeah.
From K Street, saying we need to borrow these armaments from this state, or we need to have better gaming for our Indian tribes in another state. They've constantly got that going on below them as well. So this is all, and then you have the oligarchs, the big money in the country. You have whoever pushes the buttons within the United States that's actually out of the country, because remember, we have multinational corporations, right? They're extraterritorial. They're pushing us around. We're pushing them around.
Yes.
All these things. It's a dance. It's an ugly dance, and a lot of it is hidden. But lawyers love it. The lawyers love it.
Yeah. So, I know you had quite a few articles, quite a few. Boy, man, you went over a lot. And what we can't grab up tonight, we'll probably push to Monday. Do you want to bring up any?
So we just had a Jewish group march in D.C. Towards the Capitol, and they're fomenting for a ceasefire. So the same group of people who were killed in the rave, right? They don't want to see war. This is, for them, what's happened now is enough as far as reciprocity for being equal in violence, right? But they don't understand warfare. They understand hate. They understand love, but they don't understand warfare. In order to stop an enemy, right, from doing something for a number of years, you have to escalate 1,000%. Just doubling the amount of violence doesn't work. It has to be so atrocious, so unthinkable, that nobody wants to do it again, not in their living lifetime. And that's what Israel is doing. Now, is it the absolute best way? Is it, they got to live in the neighborhood. We don't.
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to bring up really quick, because I know you made a lot of comments on, was a lot of people. I did in the first show of Maui having arsenic in the ash, as well as cobalt and iron. Now, this is stuff that you'll find volcanically, but they're finding really high amounts, and even scientists and the researchers are saying it's too much for. So go ahead.
Anytime you reduce all the carbon life, the structures, anything that expands that stuff out, and you reduce it down to ash, you concentrate it. So it is a high concentration, but if it hadn't been ash, it would have been acceptable. If it had just been in the plants, if it had just been on the tin roofs. See what I'm saying?
So if people that want to know about it, it was in that first show. Go back and watch it and see what you think.
So it can be kind of an erroneous argument if you want to take land from somebody
and
say, well, this is so high. Well, of course it's high. You just burn everything to the ground. All that's left is a few chemicals, and they're all nasty.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's like when they have floods or hurricanes in Louisiana, the waters are treacherous, full of chemicals and waste, and they tell people quit swimming in it, because of what's in the water.
Our trees, our grass, our crops take up those chemicals, right? And they're all over our environment. And whenever you're nearer to a volcano, the lava hasn't had time to break down, like say in the Midwest now. It's all just prairie, right? And it's largely clay. Because lava breaks down to what's called plagioclase pretty rapidly. Well, once it gets to the clays, these different chemicals leach out into different areas. They each have their own movement path depending on their weights, because water is, right, the greatest solvent there is water. And depending on the weights, depends on where their sediments deposit. Well, that hasn't happened in Hawaii yet.
Yeah.
The Hawaiian land is just so young. And so when they go in, they see all the contaminants, plus what they bring in, there's arsenic and steel. There's a lot of nasty chemicals in what we use every day that is held in suspension by some sort of object, right? And yeah, it's just life on Earth. So now you'll find places where there's more of this and more of that, and that's where we mine for these chemicals, right? But it is what it is. That's kind of one of those walking arguments that, yes, you're correct, but no, the generalization doesn't quite work. Do we want to talk about Jim Jordan before we go?
Yes. Go ahead. I'm going to go let you, because you had a really good point of view on this.
So there's this report called the Black Conservative Patriot, right? And his wife started a news outlet after he got pushed off the air, right? And she brings this up that, and we call her Nana. She was the Black Conservative Patriot guy had a business in Mexico City, right? We're multinationals. He's a banker. And he met this gal. They got married. She became a naturalized citizen, and she's just a real fighter for conservatism. But she says that right now in Congress, Nancy is working behind the scenes with McHenry to keep Jim Jordan out. She's really the moving force behind Hakeem Jeffries, and they like McHenry and they like McCarthy, the Democrats, but they do not like Jim Jordan. And we have in the Republican Party this guy down from Florida. He's a Republican senator, and his name's Carlos Jimenez, and he will not, under any circumstances, vote for Jim Jordan.
Yeah.
Now,
well, Jim Jordan went up against Nadler and Pelosi, and I think there's some type of vengeance there.
Right. So, but his family, most of the Hispanic families in Florida, a very large number of them are Cuban, or they come from the Dominican Republic, or a lot of the islands, right? And they want Cuba to be free, right? So they say, well, if globalization happens, there's no borders, right? Then Cuba will be a free place.
Yeah.
And that's where Cuba. Okay. Firstly, that was on the basis that they would not bring communism right into our backyard. Well, that's here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Secondly, the Soviet Union doesn't exist. So if he wants Cuba to be free, there's a way to make that happen, and
Mm-hmm.
they have bases all over Florida.
Yeah.
That can happen in a few minutes. That's a false dichotomy that he's headed down, and I hope he understands that he can have both Jim Jordan and a free Cuba at the same time. And Jim Jordan is more likely to
Mm-hmm.
free Cuba than these Democrats and Republicans that are, Democrats in Republican skin. So, yeah, that's happening. Nancy is angry as can be.
Mm-hmm.
She's hot. She lost her
Office.
office, and she is fit to be tied. And she's threatening everybody, and she does what she does. She's the Hillary Clinton of the House of Representatives, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Well, Hillary's the one that got
like
Nancy
anybody but
Pelosi
Jim Jordan.
in, her and Feinstein in '92, and Nadler and a few of them.
So we have basically, and they're not going to like hearing this from me, we have an immature Congress right now. We have an immature House right now because
Yes.
they haven't had to deal with extreme violence outside the United States. And they're having a real difficulty choosing sides.
Mm-hmm.
We see that all the time, even with the president. We can't decide which side he's on. I mean, we had a doctrine of never, ever, under Reagan, we never, ever negotiate with terrorists.
Yeah. Well, even under Trump. Trump wouldn't allow it either.
And now we're sending money to the Taliban in Afghanistan.
Well, under the guise of humanitarian aid.
Yeah,
that's what gets me, is the guys.
In arms.
Yeah.
If it had been the Congress of the 90s, they would be screaming and fit to be tied right now.
Yep.
Putting the brakes on all this.
Yeah.
But we don't. We have. Yeah. This is the Republic is functioning, right? It's messy. That's what democracies and republics are. They're very, very messy, and they're slow to act, which is good because then they don't act on emotion. They tend to act more on just logical thinking, right? We hope. We don't know what all the pressures are and what everything's going on behind the scenes, but it's all functioning. It's functioning better now than it was in 2000, so that's good. But we have a problem right now. Our big problem is happening with the DOJ and with our prosecuting attorneys around the country. That's our big problem right now. So, yeah, it'll happen. We kind of have to wait. We got to sit on our hands. That's, in the military, when they send you into action, you're trained for that. That's automatic. That's great. You don't even have to think about that. You just do it, right? The hard part is waiting. The hardest part of being in the military is waiting. And the same thing is with governing.
Yeah. Do you have anything else, or are we closing for the night?
I think we're closing for the night, and I'd just like to say, if you're interested in these points of view that we get to bring you, that
come back
don't
and watch.
Typically get shared, right, on the news, so that when you see something happening, you can understand whether it's just a normal course of action or something really bad and new is happening, right?
Yeah.
You get to know that by being a global thinker from our program. So we hope that you'll like, subscribe, share, um, comment, and we'll try to come up with answers for any questions. So thanks, everybody, and we want you to know that we love giving competent information out in a way that will, if you use it, can enrich your lives. Thanks, Elly, for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm just doing a welcome Jimmy. He's new to the show, and he said he hadn't made a comment yet, but uh, he's got all these little um, pictures. So welcome Jimmy to the show, and Department of Homeland Corrections,
So you
America.
can pick on me if I get some information wrong. We're okay with that too.
Yeah, so far it's just thumbs up type of thing. So welcome to the show, and if you are new and you haven't made a comment, please do, because we'll put you on our board like we just did with Jimmy, um, and we thank you for your comments. Um, we're all about making America. I don't want to say making America great again. How about we just make America America again? And that's what we
I
need.
like the idea of God bless these United States, right?
Yeah.
And please bless the world with the peace
Yes.
they so desperately need in their homes.
And we need a really good foreign affairs. We need good infrastructure. We need um, everything to be better in America so that we can have the American dream. When we have migrants coming over, family of migrants that leave because there is an American dream, we know something's wrong because of many has come into this country.
When America is powerful, many across the world get to live the American dream in their own countries.
That's right.
And that's not happening right now.
No, because the aid and anything that helps other countries is now being taken by their own corrupt governments. And I want to expose every single one of them. So thank you for letting me check in. He says, come on back. And you're very, very welcome. You make a comment and you don't come on back, Jimmy, and we'll throw you up on our board and let your friends and family know to come on in. And we want to hear comments. We want to hear what people around the world are saying. And we've got people watching and viewers all over the world globally. And we want to really hear what is going on around the world so we can give you the right information, not flipping propaganda. So we thank you. And uh, anything what is it? Anything as you point, you say is at least 99% correct. Thank you. We try. I do a lot of investigation, and I got William now, and he's even looking into to stuff. And when I heard him today, he was excited about tonight. I was like, just go for it, William. Just go. Don't let me stop you now. And we got Karen. Very Karen is very boisterous in our for a moderator. A lot of people aren't used to that. They say stick to topic. No, she says stuff, and she even goes back to previous stuff that we've said and keeps it going. So we thank even Karen. All right.
So in our chat room, we have conversations that have nothing to do with anything on this too, as well, of the news of the day. We have friends meeting. We have banter between different commenters. All kinds of stuff goes on, and it's really quite fun if you jump in.
Well, he says he's from Los Angeles. Jimmy, I'm from Sacramento. Have friends all the way from Northern California down to LA. So
And Williams up here in near Seattle, the evil
yeah,
Seattle.
but I was born and raised in Sac, and I lived in Visalia for a little bit, and Chico, lived in Chico. We lived in Marysville, Yuba City. So you know, um, I'm originally a California girl, they say, and I said, "Gag me with a spoon," and everybody was like, "What?" And I was like, "No, it's a Zappa thing." So, all right, folks, that is it for the night, and Jimmy, come on back and join in our chat, and we'll
Bring
get
your
your
friends.
comments. Bring your friends. That's right. So with that, folks, we're going to close out. Come on back tomorrow. We'll have news. Well, the weather and lifestyle news, and of course, I'll be keeping an eye on Israel, and we'll have the news tomorrow. So, and if not, Jimmy, bring everybody back, your friends, for trivia on Friday. We love fresh meat. Oh,
And Miss Davis. Don't forget Miss Davis on the other show.
that's right. Okay, so with that, folks, we will see you soon. And thank you for watching. And like William said, subscribe, hit the thumbs up, bring your friends and family, and subscribe definitely. And of course, you've seen with Jimmy, you come in, you make a comment, we throw you on the board. All right, folks, take care. Have a wonderful Wednesday.